Hello, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're calling in from. My name is Elise Haynes from True Sense Marketing, and we are so happy that you're joining us for today's Quick Byte webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about how to look down the funnel using brand tracking to identify opportunities and challenges in your fundraising throughout the donor pipeline. Today's presenters are Allison and Paul from our animal care team. Thank you guys both for lending your time to share what you've learned with the people on this call. So without further ado for me, I'm going to hand things off to our presenters.
Thanks, Elise. Well, we're going to actually start with a poll just to prime everyone for the conversation that we're going to have. And we'll start with, if you go over to your quiz down on the bottom under the polls tab, answer question, what percentage of people have heard of the Humane Society of the United States? So let's go ahead and get everyone's answers in there, and then we will kick off our session. All right, votes are coming in. Just give it a moment here for any final votes. We've got a neck and neck tie right now between 63. 63 just took the lead. So we're settling down there at 63%. So let's see what the answer is. And we'll dive into the brand tracking and its relevance for fundraising. Well, we actually have a neck and neck tie between 51 and 63%. So for those of you who chose 63%, that is the correct answer for the moment. So one of the things I wanted to say, give you a little background on the resource that we're using, is TrueSense has implemented brand tracking for 5 national brands as a way to better understand how prospective donors move down the marketing funnel. And so the other thing that's important in our solution is that we are doing monthly surveys of approximately about 400 to 500 people every single month. So these metrics are going to change over time. So let me provide a little context for how we approach the marketing funnel from a fundraising perspective. So there's a lot of different ways that the marketing funnel is described. All of them start at the awareness stage, the point at which someone becomes aware of a product or a brand, and begins that journey down towards a purchase, or in this case, a donation. So on the right is how we approached determining what stage in the marketing funnel a person is in a survey that we administer to prospective donors. So at the awareness stage, we ask them, which of the following charities have you heard of? So it's a multiple choice option. They could have heard of all of the 5 different organizations, or they select one. So that's where we got the 63% for the Humane Society. The next question is, which of the following charities would you consider donating to? So you can see 33% of the responders indicated that they would consider giving to the Humane Society. For the question of, have you looked into any of these charities before? So a little bit more intent in terms of research. So this might be someone who in practical side of marketing is someone who might have clicked on a link to look more into the organization, or went onto their website to read more. There we're looking at a drop down to 22% of the responders. And then usage, it's a very broad term in brand tracking. In this case, it applies to the donation. So which of the following charities have you donated to in the past 12 months? In this case, 13% of the responders indicated that they had given to the Humane Society in the past 12 months. And then finally, if they were to choose one charity to donate to, which one would you choose? So they really were presented with 5 choices at that moment, and 11% indicated a preference for the Humane Society. Well, I wanted to introduce a quick plot twist. This is definitely relevant in terms of our ongoing brand tracking. The Humane Society of the United States changed their name at the end of February and then implemented a new website and branding and marketing in the month of March. So what you're going to see today reflects the response by the audience to the current brand, the Humane Society of the United States. Beginning in May, with all of our surveys going out, we will be changing that to Humane World for animals. I actually think this is an exciting plot twist, because we're going to have real-time market data that provides feedback on what happens when a very well-established brand changes their name. And we're going to be able to see how those metrics change, starting with our surveys in May. So look out for a potential update to this conversation in the future as we track a very significant change in terms of branding for this organization that's been out in the market now since March. So let's just talk through a little bit of the variables that we're looking at related to how does this apply to a fundraising perspective. And so in each of the next 3 slides, you'll see the Humane Society over on the right side and how they compare to other brands. So first of all, when we look at awareness, we have some key brands in here that are industry leaders in recognition. The American Red Cross leads with 83%, closely followed by the Salvation Army. 2 organizations with a historic presence in the United States and widely recognized in terms of visibility, both during the holiday season and then during disaster events with the American Red Cross. We included St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital because it's an excellent example of advertising and marketing driven awareness. This is a single hospital that has a pretty broad reach through its investment in significant upper funnel marketing. And then for Feeding America, it's a fairly new brand in terms of the way that food banks are organized around a national identity. And so it provides another good benchmark in how organizations' brand changes over time. And then finally, Humane Society. So falling behind the larger brands in terms of tradition and marketing reach, but stronger than a more recent brand like Feeding America. You'll note as we move down the funnel that the lower performance at the upper funnel and as you work down starts to diminish, particularly when we get to the point of preference. So outside of St. Jude's, which has a very high level of preference, the Humane Society actually finds parity with some of the larger national organizations. So part of what we're going to do today is better understand why are they sort of outperforming, considering the funnel at the upper levels in terms of preference in the survey that we're doing. Before we go further, one of the things that's really interesting about the tool we use for brand tracking is it's not just looking at your relative position in terms of percentage at different stage, but the strength of movement down through each of the stages. And this is really exposing, for example, the advantage that the Humane Society has in converting donors to a higher level of preference. So just it's an 85% difference when compared to the American Red Cross or Salvation Army. That's translating only 43 to or 55% in case of American Red Cross from giving to preference. And I think that's a good indicator that strong brands have an advantage in terms of general awareness and giving, but not necessarily able to translate that really well-established strong brand into particular donor preference. And there's a weakness there that St. Jude's and the Humane Society are able to capitalize on with greater strength. So this tool is helpful in terms of, yes, understanding in a sense, the shape or the width of the funnel for a particular organization, but how well are they at moving people effectively from each of the different stages? which gives us some insight in terms of where we need to emphasize marketing spend in terms of achieving either growth in the width of the funnel or success at moving people down more quickly through it to each of the different stages. So I wanted to show what happens, though, when you isolate the funnel to a particular type of audience. And I think this is a great example of how important it is to recognize that not everyone is going to be a productive audience when it comes to fundraising. For people who have a passion for animals and the welfare of animals, their ratings look very different than the broad general audience. So in this case, you can see that not only does awareness rise, but the actual conversion, under usage, and preference significantly improves. So they're essentially outperforming every type of organization that we're tracking here. So that alignment between the interests and values and passion of the donor and your organization and its mission is pretty important in terms of being productive when you're spending money, even at the upper levels of the pyramid. I'll point out too, what's interesting is that their investigation ratings are significant, but in some ways have parity with the national brands, but then they're converting to giving and preference much more efficiently. And so the targeting of your advertising is an important variable in terms of maximizing your opportunity when it comes to marketing to folks who have yet to give. All right, so this is another part of our brand tracking that I think has been most fruitful in exposing some assumptions, even for myself, when it comes to nonprofit marketing and fundraising. So if you go to the poll now, the question is, what statement about the Humane Society scored lowest among those who heard of the organization? And there's actually some pretty consistent performance across all of the organizations. So go ahead and look through those statements about the Humane Society, select the one you believe is the one that ranked lowest in the brand tracking surveys. Just give it 5 more seconds here if you want to jump in and give voice to this. All right. Well, either this deck leaked in advance, or you all have really great perceptions about organizations, because at 50%, we have finds new and creative ways to make a difference. And you're absolutely right. The ranking for all of the organizations when it came to how people perceived the brand, ranking the lowest was finding new and creative ways to make a difference. And this actually follows the recent Edelman studies that have found a similar low ranking for organizations in terms of innovation compared to businesses, government, and other entities. And so consistent performance here compared to other surveys, I think, is a strong validation for what we found. In terms of their peers, I would point out, though, that they are ranking below average for responsibility, shared values, trust, and innovation. Again, all of the organizations you can see ranked high in terms of making a difference. And again, this is for people who are aware of a brand, not necessarily giving to it, but just know that the organization exists and who they are. This is a no-duh moment, even for me, to be aware of. But what I read in this is that people who give charitably know that you make a difference. There's an assumption that you exist because you are doing something good. And so there's a default acknowledgement that you as an organization are making a difference. But there, as you can see, is some variation when it comes to some of the other values they might ascribe to it. The one that I saw that really sort of stuck out to me was this specific question of shares my values, which in a world where we have a lot of polarization, or we have people making a lot of purchasing decisions based on alignment with their passion or disagreement with the position of people within a company, this seems to be an issue that's particularly more relevant in our current environment, and something to monitor and take note of. So now I'm going to look at how things change when we look at different kinds of donors. So for example, when we look at animal welfare donors, the metric that moves the most is shares my values. Again, pointing to the importance for people who give to animal welfare causes, an alignment around the care and concern they have for the well-being of animals in particular. You see a little bit of a movement for making a difference. The other one that moved more as well was trust. That for those who are animal welfare donors, they have a greater trust in the work of the Humane Society as a whole. And then finally, I want to look at donors with a preference. And in this example, there was a little bit of gain across all of the metrics, but this is where we have an opportunity to compare different audiences. So we're looking at people who prefer the Humane Society, but we're also looking at people who prefer the other organizations and what might differentiate them in terms of their perceptions. And so you can see that there's actually a low ranking against peers for responsible use of the donations and being a brand I trust, where the metric for some of the other organizations was most significant. Where they lead is in terms of shared values. So that seems to be a pretty important variable for someone who has a preference for giving to the Humane Society and animal causes in general. And when we think about all of these different elements that we're exploring today, the important question is, how do I signal, or how do I communicate statements that help reinforce the values of my organization, how I use donations responsibly, how can I increase trust in my organization as a way of differentiating myself when it comes down to a person deciding to give to one brand or another. And then finally, as an industry, how do we find new and creative ways to make a difference and talk about the innovative work that organizations are doing? So I'm going to pass to Allison for the next round.
Thank you, Paul. Now we move into brand perceptions. This portion of the survey is only shown to respondents that are already aware of a brand. So we're hearing from folks at the top of the marketing funnel in the awareness stage. TrackSuit asked these respondents, thinking about charities, what comes to mind when you think about, for example, the Humane Society of the United States? The reason we're focusing on brand perception is because it shapes how audiences think, feel, and ultimately transact with your organization. At the awareness phase of the marketing funnel, brand perception reveals several critical insights about marketing effectiveness. The first of which is market penetration. The percentage of your target audience that recognizes your brand indicates your reach and visibility. Next is message clarity. How accurately audiences understand what your brand offers shows whether your messaging is clear and compelling. This is where we'll be focusing our attention today. Emotional resilience. Initial emotional associations with your brand predict whether audiences will move further down the funnel. And then we have competitive positioning. How audiences mentally position your brand relative to competitors reveals whether your differentiation strategy is working. And finally, marketing ROI. By measuring awareness against marketing spend, you can determine the efficiency of your brand marketing investments. Poor awareness metrics often predict downstream marketing failures, while strong awareness at the top of the funnel creates momentum that pulls audiences through subsequent stages of consideration, investigation, usage, and preference. Success in this area of the survey is defined as close alignment between themes and respondent answers and an organization's mission statement. We can move along. Thank you. So here we have responses on brand perceptions comparing St. Jude's with the Humane Society of the United States. I hear you asking, why did we choose to compare against St. Jude's? Well, first, they have a large marketing budget. I think we've all seen a St. Jude's ad online or on TV. And they also help a vulnerable population, sick children, which we felt aligns most closely with the Humane Society of the United States. What we're looking at here are brand perceptions of all themes, meaning common themes found in responses for multiple organizations, as well as unique themes that were found in responses for only one organization. The common themes appear in the darker colored circles, while unique themes are in the lighter colored circles. We can keep going. We're going to be focusing on unique themes today to get at the heart of brand marketing success. Each organization sets forth a brand within their marketing, and we want to gauge how successful those branding efforts are by comparing survey responses against the organization's mission statements. Where there is strong alignment, there is also strong message clarity within their marketing awareness efforts that creates that momentum through the marketing funnel. So here we're looking at St. Jude's. On the left, you'll see the unique themes from the survey respondents. On the right, St. Jude's mission statement. I'll give you a moment to read them to yourself, and I want you to see how many words you pick out that appear on both the left and right side of the screen. Give you another few moments here. And then we can move along to our poll. So here we're asking, how would you rate the alignment between St. Jude's unique themes and their mission statement? We would love to have you participate, so please open that up and make sure you vote. And it looks like we're getting votes in slowly but surely here. And it's a mix of responses, very interesting. I'll give you guys a few more seconds to get your votes in. Seeing some shifting here. All right, we'll go ahead and call it. So it seems that most folks said we are somewhat aligned here, which I would agree with. Here you'll see the unique themes that closely align with St. Jude's mission statement, bold and in green. And you'll notice that it's most of them in that left-hand column, 7 out of 10. Those who were aware of St. Jude's were able to identify that they specialize in serving children, that they focus on research and medical care, and that an important aspect of their mission is removing the financial burden of treatment for families seeking care. And here we're looking at survey respondents whose answers were both in close and loose alignment with St. Jude's mission. Youthful is the only new word that's been added on the left here. I don't think St. Jude's would describe their work as youthful, but because they focus on pediatric medicine, this is loosely aligned to their mission. We'll come back to the words that aren't bolded on this slide in just a minute, but first, transition to the next slide. We did not forget about our visual learners on the call. These are some marketing examples outside of the mission statement that depict how St. Jude's brands themselves, whether it's in search, mobile messaging, or their website homepage. You'll notice some of the words that we just discussed appear here: saving children, providing medical care, and free treatment. And then next, we are going to take a look at the results for Humane World for Animals. On the left, you'll see the unique themes from the survey respondents, and on the right, their mission statement. Again, I'll give you a few moments to read this all to yourself, and I want you to see how many words that you can find on both sides of the screen. Give you another few seconds here, and we can move forward. We've got another poll for you. Thank you. So again, let's take a look at the results here. Please cast your vote. How would you rate the alignment between Humane World for Animals' unique themes and their mission statement? And it looks like very interesting. We've got a little bit of a different mixed bag this time. I'll let you guys get your votes in just a few more seconds here, and then we'll call it. All right, I think we've got all the votes in. So again, somewhat aligned is our lead here, but it is interesting. Misaligned moved up the list this time relative to the poll we just did for St. Jude. So let's explore that. So again, you're going to see bolded the words that closely align between the unique themes and Humane Society for the United States mission statement. And you'll notice that it's less of them than before. Now it's only 5 out of 10. So those who were aware of the Humane World for Animals were able to identify some of the core aspects of their mission in survey responses, particularly that they save animals. And you might wonder why pet-friendly and pets aren't bolded here. In this case, it's important to make a distinction between animals and pets. Within the animal care industry, we tend to speak more broadly about animals, whereas pet tends to imply a relationship or ownership. In the case of Humane World for Animals, their mission statement exclusively references animals and not pets. We'll keep moving along here. Thank you. And here we're looking at survey respondents whose answers were both in close and loose alignment with Humane World for Animals' mission. Reliable is the only word that's been added here in green on the left, different from the slides we saw previously. Their mission statement does mention that they've been addressing these issues for over 70 years, and we can see a loose correlation with survey responses, recognizing that reliability within the animal welfare space. And bringing some more visual examples into the mix, we can move to the next slide. These are some marketing examples outside of the mission statement that depict how Humane World for Animals brands themselves. Again, whether it's in search, mobile messaging, or their website homepage. I noticed that the ethical and saving themes we just discussed really carried through here, particularly with the text message on the right-hand side of the screen. This is the message that you get when you sign up to receive mobile messages from Humane World for Animals, and it is first and foremost about saving and advocating for animals. Moving on to the next slide, we'll circle back to those unique themes that weren't bolded on the previous slides. So here are those words: excellent and heartbreaking for St. Jude's, pet-friendly, pets, cute, and adorable for Humane World for Animals. As marketers and fundraisers, we'd love to think that we have complete control over our brand perception, right? We're investing strategically in the marketing funnel to move folks along from awareness to investigation to usage to preference. We'd like to think that's a neat and tidy process with no outside influence, but we all know that's not the reality. Audiences can form their own perceptions around brands based on their personal experiences, word of mouth from friends and family, as well as social media. So many things can influence an individual's perception of a brand outside of the marketing efforts that we deploy. So let's explore a little bit further. Starting with St. Jude's at the top here, we have their mission statement again on the right and their unique themes on the left. Nowhere in St. Jude's mission statement do they call themselves or their work excellent, and yet that's the perception that many survey respondents have of the organization. St. Jude's has done a great job of infusing their marketing with the components of their mission that are excellent: advancing cures, finding means of prevention, restoring health to children through research and treatment, and making that treatment available to any child that needs it free of charge. So in this case, a positive unintended association. Is anyone surprised by the unique theme bolded in red? Heartbreaking. I doubt St. Jude's marketers are surprised. After all, their mission statement identifies these pediatric diseases as catastrophic. While at face value, this may seem to be a negative unintended association, this is great for fundraisers because the mission statement and brand perceptions from audiences are acknowledging the need. It is heartbreaking when children experience cancer, and St. Jude's marketing does a great job of raising awareness around that so that audiences recognize the need and begin to move through the funnel toward conversion, actually giving a gift to address that need. Moving on to Humane World for Animals, like we discussed, consumers can form their own perceptions around brands, whether or not those words appear in the organization's mission statement or their marketing. Humane World for Animals focuses primarily on saving animals from cruelty and suffering, but their website has incredible resources for pet owners. They also connect pets and their families in need with vital resources. So even though pets and pet-friendly don't appear in their mission statement, some of the survey respondents who were already aware of the brand may know about them because a friend recommended an article on pet safety tips for 4th of July, or they sought out resources for renting with pets. And finally, was anyone surprised to see cute and adorable make the list of unique themes? Humane World for animals likely wouldn't call their life-saving work cute or adorable, but the animals that they serve sure are. I like to think that survey respondents were thinking of their own furry family members when answering this question, and those positive associations showed up in the results.
All right. Thanks, Allison. And actually, one of the things when we look at those word associations, we can actually go to the verbatim, so we can see what people wrote. And the adorable really centered around puppies and kittens. So it was amalgamated under adorable and cute. The fact that the responders are specifically thinking about puppies and kittens in terms of their image and association with animals. So something to think about in terms of some of these word associations can really help provide guidance around what kind of imagery people associate with and might be worth testing in terms of the marketing that we do, especially in the digital space. So some key lessons we wanted to share as we look at the brand tracking and as we continue to gain insights from this ongoing tracking that we're doing. We're going to continue to look at how we can apply what we're learning here. I think too often we think of brand and fundraising as two separate things, but we have a creative director at TrueSense. He has a great phrase for this. He says, your brand is your mission. And you can't achieve your mission without the financial support of donors. And so essentially, a brand and fundraising are really fully integrated at different levels. And I think the survey shows that really strong mindfulness around donors understanding that your mission is not possible without their support, and really tying all of that together can be highly successful. We see that, for example, especially in St. Jude's, that all of their branding is aligned with the fact that they can do what they do because of the gifts from donors. So the one insight that I saw that really came out for me was communicating shared values. So building on your impact statements by identifying the values you share with your audience as a way of building trust. Acknowledging that you both have a shared value around the care and well-being of animals, and that is something that you share as a community of people working together to provide support to animals who are vulnerable and in need of support and services, and making sure that's a key component to the way we talk about fundraising. And this could be true for other organizations as well. What is those shared values that we want to communicate, because it's becoming a more important variable. The second one, and this is the one that I really want to highlight, having worked in different nonprofit organizations and being in the meetings with program teams and the passion people bring to their services, or the times that we tour so many different animal welfare organizations and see the innovation in action. Finding ways to make sure that we share all of the different new and interesting ways you are advancing your mission. We can do better at making sure donors understand that their resources allow organizations to keep making advances in animal welfare. You know, if we think about facilities with incredible HVAC systems that are ensuring that there's clean air across an animal shelter, would be an excellent example. I don't know how many donors know that that's been something people have been working towards, or the way that kennels are placed to reduce stress levels. All of those things could be something that we talk more about.
And then as I was looking through this survey and all of the results that we saw, what I wanted to touch on is the use of consistent messaging. So although we recognize that we can't totally control brand perception, it's important to present a unified message so audiences feel like they're getting to know a consistent version of your brand. And again, having that marketing and mission statement really closely tied together. Your brand should also invite participation in furthering your mission so that audiences clearly understand the role that you're asking them to play in the bigger picture. And then finally, I think Paul said it best, when you're communicating your brand, you're really communicating your mission. They are one and the same. And it's important that your staff understand that as well. So development and marketing staff in an ideal world would work hand in hand together on the branding, because it is so closely tied to your mission and the need for supporters to help advance that mission through fundraising.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Allison, Paul, for your time walking us through those survey responses and giving us a lot to think about with branding and fundraising and how they really affect each other. For those of you on the call, we'd love it if you would take a quick survey to let us know what you thought about today's webinar. I didn't see any questions come through, but if you have any that pop into your mind later, feel free to reach out to us at info@truesense.com. I'll pass those emails along to Paul and Allison and make sure to get you an answer. And if you don't have plans for next week, Wednesday or Thursday, same time, we have some more webinars as part of the Spring Quick Byte series that we would love to have you attend. So we hope to see you at a future Quick Byte event. Thanks for joining us today and enjoy your afternoon.